If you think I've got the perfect script for you that you can use when you're prospecting, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that I don't have the perfect script for you. The good news is you actually already have it. I'm going to show you how you can uncover what is already within you in today's episode of CRE Success, the podcast. It is episode 79. Hello, my name's Darren Krakabiak. I am here to help you, if you work in commercial real estate, save time, earn more, and be a top performer in your market. Love the fact that you're spending this time with me today. And if you've been listening to our last 4 episodes, you'll know that we're actually right smack bang inside a special series of episodes where we're covering content that's contained within Top Performer, which is our signature program that was developed back in 2021, released in September 2021, and now has been rolled out to some different cohorts of people. And we're now opening up again to the general public to become part of our next cohort of Top Performer. We'll be taking people through the material in April and May, a small number of people, because I can only take so many people through the content because I'm providing some additional one-on-one support for people who do join this cohort. So if you would like to become part of that cohort and equip yourself with the abilities, habits, and tools required to be a top performer in your market, go to cresuccess.co/top performer and register your details. You'll be amongst the first to know about it, so you will definitely not miss out on a place if you do register your interest early. The past 4 episodes I've been covering different modules. So back in episode 75, we covered some material from module 5, which is efficiency and effectiveness. And we talked about specialization and how, especially earlier on in your career, specializing can help you advance more quickly. In episode 76, we dealt with some material from module 1, which is all about personal excellence. And we were talking about ways to deal with negative self-talk and how if you can deal with negative self-talk, that's going to release that handbrake, which is holding you back from being the best you can be. In episode 77, we took some material from module 4, in fact, which is ways to win. And we're talking about how nothing else matters except for 4 things when it comes to determining who is going to win a competitive process in commercial real estate. And in last week's episode, it was episode 78, and we were talking about material from module 3, which is building your brand. And it was all about how to construct an avatar so you can talk to people effectively in personal branding content, but also in more leverage material that you might use to get more from your time. So it was kind of a bit of an efficiency and effectiveness things as well. It was a bit of a twofer, but really it was about building a brand and making sure that the content you create resonates with the person who is intended for without it actually having to be personalized. Today we're talking about purposeful prospecting, which we'll get into in a moment. And then next week we'll get into module 6 content, which is all about client accumulation. And I'll share that topic content with you next week. Every single one of the modules inside Top Performer contains 5 main teaching points. There's also an intro, an outro, bonus content from CRE Success, other content that I recommend. There's even a place where you can test your knowledge with a self-quiz as part of every module. But of those 5 main teaching points, each main teaching point has 3 parts. And what I'm doing is just teaching you a part or one part of that part from each of the modules, so you can just get a little taste of the content inside Top Performer. So if you're enjoying this special series of episodes, if you want to be equipped with the abilities, habits, and tools required to be a top performer in your market, I invite you to go to cresuccess.co/top performer and register your interest. It's an 8-week program, and I'm looking forward to taking a small number of students through that material in just a couple of weeks. So let's talk now about scripts, which is from module 2 of Top Performer, purposeful prospecting. And the real point that I want to get across to you here is that scripts aren't your friend. When I first started CRE Success, the business, back in 2020, I did inquire to people who work in commercial real estate about the sorts of things that they may be looking for. And some people said, you know what I'd really like? I'd like to see some scripts that will help me with cold calling, so I know what to say when I am prospecting for new business. And certainly it was put to me that in residential real estate, a lot of the coaches, the speakers, the trainers, they provide this type of material for their clients, scripts. And look, I don't actually agree with that as a way to help people, because I think it's a little bit disingenuous for me to give you a script and to tell you that it's going to work just because I think it would work for me, or if it has worked for me, because it's worked for me because I am me and I'm not you. And if you try and say something that I would say in a different market, speaking to different people, then that is not necessarily going to work for you. So what I would encourage you to do, rather than take someone else's scripts, is to actually develop your own scripts and frameworks and just really apply long-standing principles when it comes to how to have an effective conversation with a new prospect. The other reason why I don't think it's appropriate to give you a script is that a script that I give you can't possibly deal with every situation that you're likely to find yourself confronting when you are prospecting. Because when we're prospecting, we're dealing with people, and people are unpredictable, and they're likely to ask us things which we're not expecting. And that doesn't mean that we can't prepare for unexpected questions, but a script is only going to assume that if someone says this, then we say that. But as soon as someone actually goes off that nice little script framework they've created, then we're in trouble. So rather than be like a deer in the headlights, I'd recommend rather that you're really prepared for the calls that you're making. And what I want to give you right now is some principles of how it is that you can have an effective conversation, but also some ways that you can recognize when you are having success, that you can then develop or start to develop your own, not scripts, but some lines which can help you in future conversations. So I think the first thing that you really want to do, rather than have a script, is to just make sure you know your stuff. Because when you know your stuff, when you're having a conversation with a new prospective customer, whether it's on the phone or if it's in person, then you're going to come across as much more competent, and you're also going to be more confident because you are prepared. You know the market, you know the service that you're providing, you know how to communicate your value, rather than having to rely on a script. And when you're on the phone, maybe you can get away with a script, but you certainly can't get away with a script when you're meeting somebody in person. You might be able to get away with it on Zoom, but probably not, because someone will be able to see, likely, if you're looking down and reading from the script. So not having a script, rather knowing your stuff, is going to be a far better way to have a conversation and for you to feel confident that you are equipped to have that conversation. The other thing that I want you to do when you are prospecting is just understanding why you are doing what you're doing. And there's the bigger reason why you're doing it in terms of your overall goals and why you understand it's important. But more, I want you to think about the small thing, which is, what is it that I'm trying to do in this moment? And what you're trying to do with prospecting is to get the person to the next step. So having a clear goal of where you want to take the conversation, we're trying to see if they have the right to take the next step. And if they do have that right, then we want to encourage them to take it. And if we think about prospecting in those terms, as opposed to much more bigger terms and putting a lot of weight or expectations on what we're doing, and maybe trying to expect more from a prospecting conversation than is reasonable, then we are not going to be positioning ourselves in the best possible way in order to actually be successful. So take the pressure off, just make it about taking the next step, and then execute in a way which is the most authentic and effective way for you to execute. Not based on what it says on a sheet of paper in front of you, but rather based on your own knowledge, what you know works for you and what's also worked for you in the past. Because the more prospecting you do, the more that you speak to people, the more that you'll actually start to develop lines that work for you. And then you'll start to recognize the places where you can use your own lines that have been effective for you in the past. And those lines, which are your own lines will then help you navigate the conversation towards where you want it to get to. One thing I would say in terms of starting with a script is that you may want to develop a opening line that you feel very comfortable with, which is your standard sort of response when someone says hello that you come up with, because that provides, I think, a bit of familiarity with a prospecting call that can just start to help you feel comfortable and find your feet as you get into the conversation. So in the A to Z of CRE prospecting, which I've shared with you on this podcast before, I give you 26 ideas of how you can be more effective at prospecting. O is for opening line. You can go to cresuccess.co/ABC to grab the A to Z of CRE prospecting, and it will help you find new and better ways to level up your prospecting game. cresuccess.co/ABC. Of course, at the top of the show, I did say that this is just part of what we're teaching inside CRE Success Top Performer. So if you resonate with what we're talking about and you want to get more of this material, then of course you can go to cresuccess.co/top performer. In our episode next week, I will be teaching one more part from inside the program, and then we'll be opening it up to our next cohort of students. If it is of interest to you, then I hope that you will consider it. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I will speak to you soon.